Eclipse published Women in the Comics, the first book about women in the comic book industry, written by Trina Robbins and Eclipse editor Kat Ironwood. Ironwood was born Catherine Anna Manfred on May 12, 1947. A college dropout, she began writing in her teens, contributing to the science fiction magazines in the 1960s, along with astrology columns for the underground San Francisco Express-Times, and record reviews for the Rolling Stone. In 1969, she and her then partner Peter Paskin created the surname Ironwood, which became her signature ever since. In 1977, Ironwood would create the Magico religious index to Doctor Strange called The Lesser Book of Visanti, which she would publish through the small press and later post on her website. This book has become so popular that current Doctor Strange writers consult it. In 1980, Ironwood began work at Ken Pierce Books, editing and writing introductions to a line of comic strip reprints, which included Lee Falk's The Phantom and Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer. That same year, she succeeded Murray Bischoff as the news reporter for the Comic Buyer's Guide, beginning the running fit-to-print column, which presented industry news, reviews, and opinion pieces. This also led to her editing The Art of Will Eisner for Kitchen Sinks Press, along with numerous other freelance projects for the company. In 1983, she became the editor-in-chief of Eclipse Enterprises, and under her, the company published such works as The Miracle Man by Alan Moore and The Rocketeer by Dan Stevens. That same year, Kat Ironwood was awarded the Inkpot for her lifetime contributions to comic books. During the 1980s, Ironwood had Eclipse create a line of non-traditional trading cards focusing on such subjects as the Iran-Contra scandal and the Kennedy assassination. However, in 1993, Ironwood would divorce Eclipse's owner, Dean Mullaney, leading her to leave Eclipse and join Claypole Comics, handling production and distribution on such comics as DNA Agents and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and would stay with the company until it ended in 2007. Today, Ironwood lives in Forestville, California with her husband since 2000, Nagasi Brian W. Ironwood. Ironwood's Women in Comics co-writer Trina Robbins was born on August 17, 1938 in Brooklyn, New York. During the 1950s and 60s, she was an active member of the science fiction fandom, and her art even appeared in the Hugo-winning fanzine Habuka. Her first comics work appeared in the East Village Other, an underground New York paper, along with the Underground Comics Gothic Blimp Works. In 1969, she designed the costume for the classic Vampirella character for Warren Publishing, which Frank Frazetta drew on Vampira #1 in September of 1969. In 1970, she moved to San Francisco, where she co-founded N8 Me with Barbara Mendez. This, of course, led to women's comics, which she contributed to, notably the story Sandy Comes Out, the first comic book story ever to featuring an openly gay lesbian. In 1980s, Trina Robbins created the adaptations of Sax Rohmer's Dope and Kenneth Lee's The Silver Medal Lover, and did the short-lived series Misty for Marvel. The latter was an attempt to revive the Marvel's classic character Millie the Model, this time now running her own fashion agency while dealing with her niece Misty. She then made history when she was hired as the first female artist for Wonder Woman in 1986, with The Legend of Wonder Woman with Kurt Busiek writing. Mindy Newell did the revamp for the DC's post-Crisis of Infinite Earths, and in 1989, DC produced a Wonder Woman annual special that was illustrated by 10 different female cartoonists. After the annual, Symphony Martin drew one special issue, and then the book was taken over by Jill Thompson, who became Wonder Woman's regular artist in 1992. Today, Trina Robbins remains an activist in promoting women's issues in and through comics, such as founding the Friends of Lulu, an organization dedicated to promoting women's participation in and in the making of comic books, while also the writer of the comic strip Adventures of Honey West, one of the first popular female detectives. Of course, she is also a noted comic book historian, whose books are a main source for these episodes. Dina Lobert was born on September 30th, 1951, and she was originally the co-publisher of the Aardvark Van Helm with her husband, Dave Sim, when she met him in 1976 and later married on October 6, 1978. Through this, she published the first 77 issues of Cerebus from 1977 to 1985. However, after the divorce in 1984, Renegade Press was founded by Dini Lobert, the only woman publisher in comic books at the time, which would publish women's comics and Renegade Romance for 2 years, along with The Flaming Carrot, Miss Tree, and Normal Man. The company went defunct in 1989. In 1987, she won the Inkpot Award, and in 2010, she was inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame. Pogo, the classic comic strip using animals to reflect on human nature, would later be drawn by Walt Kelly, the creator Walt Kelly's daughter, Caroline, in an attempt to revive the strip. Her father and Pogo's creator had passed away in 1970. However, interest in the strip quickly waned, and the last strip appeared on October 2nd, 1993. Kaffee was produced by Kaffee Guswit, who was born on September 5th, 1950. She was originally followed her father's vocation of advertising, even reaching to vice president of her firm in 1976. Despite her career success, she would draw funny pictures as an emotional coping mechanism and send them to her parents. Her mother was so impressed by them that she encouraged her daughter to send them to a publisher. Guswit would finally assent, claiming she only did it to get her mother off her back. She never expected Kaffee to be picked up, let alone appear in up to 1,400 papers at its height, leading her to quit her advertising firm to work on Kaffee full-time. This first strip appeared on November 22nd, 1976, and was a semi-autobiographical comic in nature, following the life of Kaffee, a single woman dealing with the four guilts of life: food, love, family, and work. Much of it was balancing Kaffee and being both a traditionalist and a feminist, especially in conflict with her mother, who constantly wants her to get married. Sometimes politics were addressed head-on, such as when the series did strips during the 1988 presidential election about the problems of a working woman during the Reagan administration, which did lead to some papers canceling the strip. The comic strip soon became one of the most popular of the time, with the 1987 animated special that won Kaffee Guswit an Emmy for Outstanding Animation Special, and inspiring the 1990 sitcom Caroline in the City, of which the title character had a rivalry with the Kaffee strip. The strip ultimately ended on October 3rd, 2010, when Kaffee Guswit decided to retire, and the comics end, Kaffee is married and expecting her first child. Guswit would win the Reuben Award from the National Cartoonist Society in 1992 for her work on Kaffee. Lynn Johnson was born on May 28, 1947, later attending the Vancouver School of Art with hopes of becoming an artist. She briefly worked in animation, such as uncredited work on cell animation for the Abbott and Costello cartoon show, and she later went to work as a medical artist at the McMaster University, which still keeps her illustrations in storage, such as her father's smoking in the waiting room. When Johnstone was pregnant with her first child, she would draw single-panel cartoons for the ceiling of her obstetrician. These drawings led to her first book, David, We're Pregnant, which was published in 1973 under the pseudonym Lynn Franks. The book would ultimately sell 300,000 copies and launch Johnstone's career, though the publisher refused to pay her for the first, thus forcing Johnstone to repurchase the rights for $25,000, from which she would be republished under Lynn Johnstone. Johnstone would later divorce her first husband and start freelancing out of a greenhouse converted into a studio, where she produced the sequel to her first book, Hi Mom, Hi Dad, which was published in 1975. She then met dental student Rod Johnstone, and the two were later married. In 1978, they relocated with their two children to Lynn Lake, Manitoba, where Johnstone was approached by the Universal Press Syndicate about creating a comic strip. Lynn produced 20 strips of the Johnstones, basing on her own family, as in her words, "We are the only people I could draw with consistency." To her surprise, the syndicate approved the strip and offered Johnstone a 20-year contract. After a 6-month workup, Johnstone's first strip appeared on September 9, 1979, entitled For Better or Worse. Starring the Pattersons, father and mother, John and Ellie, with kids Michael and Elizabeth, they were a normal family based on Johnstone's own, with the father, John, being a dentist like her husband. It was told in real time, as the characters would grow up and change with the years, and with the kids going from preschoolers to adults after the comic's 25-year run. The series would deal with numerous issues, from domestic abuse, moving to new towns, and even homosexuality. The last caused the strip to face problems when she introduced homosexuality in the strip on March of 1993, when Michael's best friend Lawrence came out, leading to 20 newspapers canceling it. However, also led to For Better or For Worse being a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 1994 for handling such a sensitive topic. Throughout her career, Johnstone enjoyed a close friendship and mentorship from the great Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts, and when she told him she was planning to kill the Pattersons' dog Farley, Schulz objected and even jokingly threatened to kill Snoopy in his own strip. Ultimately, Johnstone would have Farley die, saving April, the Pattersons' youngest child, from drowning, but it kept it a secret from Schulz. She later wrote one of the introductions to one of the Fantagraphics collections of Peanuts strip in the book. On August 31st, 2008, Lynn Johnstone retired for better or for worse, though the strip is now continuing in reruns since July 11th of 2010. Johnston herself would win numerous awards for her strip, notably being the first woman and Canadian to win the Reuben for the National Cartoon Society in 1985. And that is a rambling and too brief history of women cartoonists. It doesn't cover nearly everything, notably the more modern creators like Gail Simone or the numerous artists from overseas. Many of the manga artists, such as creators of Ranma 1/2 and Sailor Moon, sales rival the top male artists. Hopefully, we will get to them in the future and possibly return to one or more of these artists featured in these episodes. If nothing else, I hope these episodes have demonstrated that, like all professions, comic books are not just a man's game, and the female creators have contributed just as much to this great medium. I would like to thank the main source for these episodes, A Century of Women Cartoonists by Trina Robbins, who of course is one of the cartoonists featured in these episodes. A great read for anyone interested in the history of women cartoonists in America. And now is January 23rd, 2020. Time for the favorite comic book of the week, Batman, Curse of the White Knight, number 6 by Sean Murphy, which finds Batman and Harley Quinn teaming up to keep Azrael and the Joker from releasing their final plan, all while getting to the root of the mystery behind the Wayne family legacy. Murphy delivers another fun, action-packed issue that delivers also a nice mystery, including weaving old and new characters into the storyline. Jason Blood makes a nice appearance, while also developing some interesting character dynamics. Harley and Batman's relationship take an interesting turn. Plus, his art is beautifully detailed and atmospheric and action-packed. Seeing Batman and Azrael go at each other is really great, especially Azrael's new suit, which is a nice nod to his regular continuity character. And all in all, this has been the perfect sequel to Batman the White Knight, which is easily one of the best Batman stories in recent years. Definitely a must pick up if anyone's a Batman fan in general. Also, a little catch-up. Of course, the CW last week finished their Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline and now launched the new season, the second half of this season of shows. And I have to say, Crisis on Infinite Earths ended on a fun and a great note. There's a nice tribute to this basically live-action DC in general. And the CW does everything you wish the DCEU would do right. And the DC is, to be honest, the movies have been off and on. But the CW, even with a lower budget, they capture the spirit of the comics so much better than the DC movies do. And then they can really learn from just watching them. And I do want to give a shout out to my friend Dan Klink over at Thunder Talk, and of course the Best Saturday Morning Relies podcast. He was in the hospital for the last few weeks. Here he's back home and recovering nicely. Get back to work, sir. We missed your podcast, and they're great fun to listen to. And of course, I have to give a shout out to my friends over at Nerdbliss. They started back up again. Christine and the rest of the Joneses and everybody. Great to listen to them as well. They do a great episode, of course, dealing with the Mandalorian and everyone's favorite new character of all time, Baby Yoda. And they're just a great nerdy podcast. So yeah, do listen to Nerdbliss and Thunder Talk and the Best Saturdays of Our Lives. It's great listens all around. And with that, we conclude this 3-parter on the history of American female creators in comic books. Join me again next week when I'm going to be doing a brief and rambling history of manga. Till then, go out and enjoy yourself a good comic book.